need you to arrest this man right now. He has refused to let me into his home on 4 separate occasions. 4 times. He is in direct violation of Pembroke Commons HOA compliance procedures. And I will not...
It's a Tuesday morning. You're standing at your own front door, in your own home that you pay the mortgage on every single month. And there are 2 police officers on your doorstep. Not because you did anything wrong, not because there was a crime, but because your neighbor, the HOA president, called them and told them to arrest you for not letting her inside your house, your own house. This is not a scene from a movie. This is not an exaggeration. This is exactly what happened to one American homeowner. And by the end of this video, your jaw will be on the floor. Welcome to the HOA court. I'm your host, and today we're calling this case to order. Let's go back to the beginning. Meet Daniel Mercer, a 38-year-old software engineer living in a quiet suburb of Phoenix, Arizona. He bought his home 4 years ago, a 3-bedroom house on a peaceful cul-de-sac, good neighborhood, well-maintained lawns, friendly faces. At least that's what he thought. The Maplewood Hills HOA had been running this neighborhood for over 12 years. Monthly fees of $280, regular meetings, the usual rules. Keep your grass trimmed, no loud music after 10 p.m., park in your designated spot. Daniel followed every single rule, every single one. But none of that mattered the moment Sandra became HOA president. Sandra had lived in Maplewood Hills for 9 years. She knew everyone's business. She attended every HOA meeting. She volunteered for every committee. And when the previous HOA president moved away in the spring, Sandra ran unopposed. That was the beginning of everything. Within 2 months of taking over, Sandra had already issued 14 new violations across the neighborhood. 14 in 2 months. One homeowner got fined for having a welcome mat that was too colorful. Another was cited for a wind chime that Sandra personally found acoustically disturbing. And Daniel? Daniel got his first violation notice for having a small potted plant on his front porch. A plant. He received a formal letter stating that the plant violated HOA Guidelines Section 4, Subsection B, which prohibited unapproved decorative items within 6 feet of the front entrance. Daniel checked the actual HOA rulebook. Section 4, Subsection B said nothing of the sort. He wrote back, politely, professionally. He pointed out the exact page, the exact paragraph, and noted that no such rule existed. Sandra's response? A second violation notice, this time for failure to comply with HOA president directives. Daniel decided to handle this the right way. He requested a formal HOA meeting to discuss the violations. He prepared documentation. He printed the actual rulebook. He highlighted the relevant sections. At the meeting, he calmly presented his case to the 5-member board. 3 of those 5 were Sandra's close friends. The meeting lasted 40 minutes. Daniel spoke for 10 of them. Sandra spoke for the other 30, mostly about how Daniel was becoming a problem resident and creating a hostile environment in the community. The board voted 3-2 to uphold both violations. Daniel was fined $150 for a plant. He paid the fine, he removed the plant, he moved on. But Sandra was just getting started. Over the next 6 weeks, Daniel received 7 more violation notices. His garden hose was improperly stored. His trash bin was returned to the garage 11 minutes past the approved time. His car, parked perfectly legally in his own driveway, was cited for being positioned at an unapproved angle. An angle. Daniel started documenting everything. Timestamps, photographs, written responses. He kept every single letter Sandra sent him. He kept copies of every response he sent back. Because something told him this was going somewhere. And he was right. It was a Wednesday morning in October when things crossed a line that Daniel never imagined possible. He was working from home on a video call with his team when his doorbell camera notification went off. He glanced at his phone.
Sandra Pelham was standing at his front door. He excused himself from the call, walked to the door, and opened it. Sandra was holding a clipboard. Behind her, about 10 feet back, stood a man Daniel didn't recognize, heavy-set, wearing a polo shirt with the Maplewood Hills HOA logo on it. Daniel asked what she needed. Sandra told him she was there to conduct a routine interior compliance inspection. Daniel blinked. He asked her to repeat herself. Sandra explained with complete confidence that as HOA president, she had the right to inspect any property in the community to ensure compliance with HOA standards, including the interior. Daniel knew with absolute certainty that this was not true. No HOA has the legal right to enter a private residence without consent. That's not an HOA rule, that's the United States Constitution. He told her calmly that he would not be allowing her inside his home. Sandra's expression shifted. She told him he was obstructing HOA operations. He told her to have a good day and began to close the door. That's when Sandra said the words that changed everything. "If you close that door, I'm calling the police." Daniel closed the door. He went back to his office, he got back on his call, he assumed that was the end of it. 12 minutes later, his doorbell camera went off again. 2 Phoenix Police Department officers were standing at his front door. Daniel took a breath. He walked to the door. He opened it. The officers were professional, respectful. They explained that they had received a call from a resident claiming that Daniel was preventing access to an authorized inspection of his property. Daniel invited the officers inside because, unlike Sandra, he had nothing to hide. He explained the situation clearly. He showed them the HOA rulebook on his phone. He showed them Sandra's violation notices. He showed them his documented responses. He asked the officers one simple question. Does an HOA president have the legal authority to demand entry into a private residence? The officers looked at each other. One of them actually laughed, not rudely, just the kind of laugh that says, "We cannot believe we were called here for this." They told Daniel he was completely within his rights. An HOA has no authority to enter a private home without the homeowner's consent, period. They went outside to speak with Sandra. Daniel watched through his doorbell camera. Sandra was insisting, loudly, that Daniel needed to be cited or removed for non-compliance. She was waving her clipboard. She was pointing at Daniel's house. The officers told her that no crime had been committed and that Daniel had every legal right to refuse her entry. Sandra told them they didn't understand HOA law. A police officer. She told a police officer that he didn't understand the law. The officers left. Sandra left. Daniel sat down at his kitchen table and stared at the wall for a long moment. Then he opened his laptop, and he started looking for a lawyer. Daniel found a real estate attorney named Trisha Owens, a woman with 17 years of experience handling HOA disputes specifically. When he laid out the full timeline, every violation, every letter, every incident, Patricia didn't hesitate. She told him 3 things. First, the interior inspection demand was completely illegal. No HOA governing document can override Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search. Sandra had no legal authority to demand entry, none. Second, the pattern of violations against Daniel showed strong evidence of targeted harassment. 7 violations in 6 weeks, all of them either fabricated or wildly misinterpreted from actual HOA rules. This wasn't enforcement. This was a personal vendetta. Third, Daniel had documented everything, and that documentation, that was gold. Patricia sent a formal cease and desist letter to the Maplewood Hills HOA board within the week. The letter outlined the illegal inspection demand, it outlined the harassment pattern, it cited specific Arizona state statutes governing HOA authority and homeowner rights, and it made one thing very clear. If the HOA did not immediately drop all fabricated violations and issue a formal written apology, Daniel would be filing a lawsuit. The HOA board held an emergency meeting. We don't know exactly what was said in that room, but we know the result. Within 4 days of receiving the cease and desist letter, the board responded in writing. All 7 outstanding violations against Daniel were dropped, immediately. The $150 fine he had already paid was refunded, and the board issued a formal statement acknowledging that the interior inspection demand had been conducted outside the scope of HOA authority. Sandra Pelham was removed as HOA president by a board vote of 4-1. The one vote in her favor? Sandra herself. But Daniel wasn't finished. He had documented every single violation, every letter, every timestamp, every interaction, including the doorbell camera footage of Sandra calling the police on him. He filed a civil harassment claim against Sandra personally. The case was settled out of court. The terms were confidential, but Daniel's attorney confirmed that the settlement was, in her words, favorable to her client. Daniel still lives in that house today. The potted plant is back on his porch. Nobody has said a word about it. Now, here's what I want you to take away from this case. Because this wasn't just a story about one man and one difficult neighbor. This is a pattern that plays out in HOA communities across America every single day. According to the Community Associations Institute, there are over 370,000 HOA communities in the United States today, housing more than 77 million Americans. That's nearly 1 in 4 people in this country living under some form of HOA governance. And while many HOAs operate fairly and professionally, the ones that don't can make a homeowner's life absolutely miserable. So what do you do if you're in Daniel's situation? Number 1, document everything. Every notice, every letter, every interaction. Turn on your doorbell camera, keep timestamps, because when it goes legal, documentation is everything. Number 2, know your rights. No HOA can enter your home without your consent. No HOA can fabricate rules that don't exist in the actual governing documents. No HOA president has more authority than the United States Constitution. And number 3, find an attorney who specializes in HOA law, not a general practice lawyer, someone who knows HOA statutes in your specific state, because HOA law varies significantly from state to state, and you need someone who knows the battlefield. And number 4, do not back down. Sandra was counting on Daniel giving up. Most people do. They pay the fine, they move on, they let it go. Daniel didn't. And Sandra found out the hard way that the HOA court always delivers its verdict. Javelin sound effect. If this story made your blood boil, you're not alone. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare? I want to hear your story. And if you're new here, welcome to the HOA court. Subscribe so you don't miss a single case, because trust me, the cases only get more unbelievable from here. This has been the HOA court. Court is adjourned. Outro music.